All right. Hello and welcome in to our class previews here as we are going to talk about all things high school football. It is that time of year, guys. For us, we not to say we work 6 months out of the year, but it's the busiest 6 months that we have between football and basketball. So we're getting ready to go here. I'm Brad Caldwell. I'm the general manager of Arkansas Sports Network. Appreciate you joining us here. To my left here is Duran Miller. He is the man when it comes to all things ASN. And then we have Carson Ward. He is the young man when it comes to all things ASN. And man, we're excited about talking some class previews as we get things going here, guys. We're going to start here in 2A, and I think people would probably accuse us of being maybe 2A biased, and I would say of all of the um, sports media out there in the state of Arkansas, we're probably a little heavy on it. Um, this is kind of our bread and butter. This is what we talk about. We are small school centered, no doubt about it. We know about the bigger schools as well, but we really give a lot of coverage to the smaller schools. So, starting in 2A, guys, just give me some thoughts initially.
You go ahead and start, Carson. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, well, Conway Christian, who won state last year, is going to be different this year. So um, there will be a lot more competition at the top this year. I think that to me, the reality is, with us, with Dominique Grimes being gone at Junction City, and us hearing that Brady Pennisters has is no longer at Junction City either.
Mm-hmm.
Then that changes things a lot for Junction City. Not that they don't have athletes every year, they absolutely do. Coach Ball is going to have their defense on point. He always does. He's a defensive guy, played defense at Junction City and at Washita Baptist, so he's going to have their defense on point. Um, but that just it affected their ranking whenever we decided to rank them where we did, and having them lose Grimes, who was a massive part of their offense last year, and then lose Pinister, who we thought was going to step up and play a big role for their offense this season and their defense. He was a fantastic linebacker as well, so that's going to impact them. To me, the top two are East Poinsett County and Mount Ida. Those are the two that I think are separated from the pack a little bit at the top. Cross County is going to be very good. This might be the best season they've had in a while. Coach Pascal's going to have them doing very well. Danny Beal is a stud. I mean, I know Brad got to see him in person, and he's just a
Oh, wow.
massive human being.
Well, number one, he's taller than Alan Russell,
Yeah,
so that tells you something right there. Mister Too
Wow.
Tall, right? He's a little taller than him. He looks the part. I'll
He's
say
four
that.
star, isn't he? I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
yep.
so
And
it's
then you
impressive.
have All-State running back coming back for Cross County as well.
Mm-hmm.
You've got quarterback who's, I believe, a 3-year starter at Cross County who's run that flex bone for a year now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year. There's going to be a lot of competition, I think, for the two teams that will be up there in the top four at the semifinals with Mount Ida and EPC. Not that Mount Ida and EPC will be locks to be there because things happen all the time where
Right.
people get upset. We had a couple of years ago, we all thought Mineral Springs was going to steamroll everybody to state, and then they lost to Hector in the first round of the playoffs.
Mm.
So, it just happens that way sometimes. Carlisle having Ty Tanksley transfer over to Cabot is going to be an adjustment for them. We're going to see how they throw the ball this year, but Jaden Elliott will be easily 1,000-yard rusher this year. Coach Wilson said he might be a 2,000-yard rusher this year. So,
Well, don't give away all your thoughts here. Let's get to Duran here, and let's talk about some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we agree for the most part on these rankings. We've got EPC at the top, Mount Ida right after them, and those two. Um, Mount Ida, what they did last year was impressive. They'd kind of gone down a little bit the year before, and they really come back with a vengeance last year. I was able to call that game against Murfreesboro in the playoffs, and of course they had was it Woodhead,
Woodfield.
Woodfield, yeah, Ben. He was just electric, and they didn't have an answer for him. And we
Yeah.
know that Coach Cheshire, who's left Murfreesboro now over at Nashville, he's a defensive-minded guy. I know they were a little banged up on the defensive line that night. They tried to do a few things, but it didn't work at all. And the coach's is his son, isn't it?
Jackson White.
White,
Yep.
yeah, he's really going to be a really good one. He got a lot of playing time. Came in and played quarterback in that game. The starter got hurt, got hit in the head a little bit or something. I can't remember exactly, but um, it was a little speculative at the time. He comes in and shows off some things for a young player, and I think they're really in good hands. Of course, they run the same thing all the way up, seventh grade up, probably even Pee Wee over there, Mount Ida.
Yes.
Proud program, and they're going to be really hard to beat. And they're a team that when you play them, you know it the next day, even if you
Yes.
happen to win. Cross County, we were already been talking about them a lot. You know, big time athletes. The quarterback's back, got a lot of experience, and of course you got Bill. They're running, with Coach Pascal, they're running that flex bone top offense, and they're just really hard to stop. That's going to be a fun. It's going to be fun to see if they can get in those top two and who really kind of comes out ahead there. Carlisle, I really, the fact that Tanksley left, if it wasn't for that, I would have them in my top two, honestly. I really love Jaden Elliott's game. Last year, they got away from what they wanted to do a little bit. They didn't run it as much. I mean, they did run it, they were balanced, but they had a really good passing attack, had some electric wide receivers. And Tanksley was able to find those guys early and often. This year, I think they're going to get back to their roots a little more. I still think they want to be balanced. They're a little bit of a spread, but they drop down into some pro set top action and do a little bit of everything. But their line is back this year, though. I think it's more of a traditional Carlisle line. Last year they were a little thin there. I think that's going to help them big time, and I do think obviously with Tanksley leaving, they're going to have to rely on that more. Bigelow, another really good team that, of course, they won it just a few couple years ago. Now they're still right there in the hunt. Desark's got a lot of things working for him. What's the fullback's name?
Gabe Berry.
Yeah, Gabe Berry. We were there last year.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and played in that game and just showed out as a sophomore. He's going to have a really
That
fun
was
year.
Collins. Collins was the
Yeah,
sophomore
that's
because
Yeah.
true.
Berry
That's
got
true.
hurt.
Barry got
Yeah.
hurt, but now they got both of them
Yep.
healthy, and I really like Collins as well. Um, so Desart's another good one. Junction City, like you said, losing their quarterback and losing their running back who moved to Florida, that hurts them a bit. That's definitely knocked them down. Um, but I really like so a couple teams on our top 10.
Okay, hold on. Before you get into that,
Okay, go ahead.
let's go ahead. That way, people will know what our rankings actually are.
Okay.
We're going to put our rankings up on the screen right now so that you'll be able to see. And this is our release for our 2A rankings. We've got EPC at number 1, Mount Ida at 2, Cross County at 3, Carlisle at 4, Bigelow at 5, Desark at 6, Junction City at 7, Murfreesboro at 8, Poen at 9, and Conway Christian coming in rounding out the top 10 in 2A. Again, you could argue some of those moving up, moving down. When we get the rankings and we get a baseline for those
Right.
rankings, and I say it every year, I'll say it again: rankings take care of themselves. They will take care of themselves as the time goes on.
Oh yeah.
As you go through the season, week 4, week 5, it kind of shakes itself out, and then there's very little movement
Right.
after that for the most part.
You find out who's the pretenders, who's the contenders. It
Yeah,
shakes out. We get a lot of hate mail. We get people that, hey, we're
right.
6-0. We beat this team. We beat that team. Blah 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 blah. And why are we eighth instead of number two? And
Yeah.
then by the
So
time the season's over, they're not in the top 10 even most of the time.
so
But
I, I
it
told
doesn't always shake out that
I
way.
told Carson this, and I'll tell the world this. Last year, Conway Christian was number 1 for us for a couple weeks, and I moved Carlisle ahead of him. Carlisle had played great up till that point. I think you could have justified easily them
Hmm.
being number 1, but when it all shook out, Conway Christian was the number 1 team.
Right.
They were the best team. They ended up being the best team in it, and they had a very special year last year. I have a regret with that because you know as we go through these rankings, a lot of times, well, let's just say, for instance, EPC loses a non-conference game. Mount Ida wins all their non-conference games.
Right.
Going into the conference, Mount Ida is going to be number 1. That's just kind of how the rankings work. As time goes on, if one loses and one wins,
Right.
you just kind of look. You try to see the big picture, but at the end of the day, that's how we do our rankings. Let's go ahead real quick here, and let's talk about each conference. Let's talk about 2A1 as we get going, and we've touched a lot on Mount Ida, and I think that probably across the table here we can say that we feel like Mount Ida is the best team in that conference. They are the number 1 team. Mount Ida, Mountain Pine, Mountain Berg. Magazine, Westside Johnson County, Hector, Conway Christian, and Bigelow. Those are the teams there in that conference. So the question in this conference, in our opinion, will be who's going to be number two. Now, with that being said, this conference probably doesn't get quite the respect that it deserves because usually they play out into the playoffs a little further. A lot of times you look at the 2A2, the 2A3, and you say, well, the better teams are here. But, you've got Mount Ida was in the semifinals last year along with Conway Christian. Bigelow is your state champion in 2023. Last year it was Conway Christian in 2024.
Right.
No, I'm wrong on that. The state champion in 2022 was Bigelow. Anyway, all that being said, am I wrong on that?
It's
23.
23. You're right.
Okay.
Right the first
So
time.
anyway, 23 was Bigelow. So you've got perennial teams, especially at the top, that can play with anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got like Hector, we haven't even talked about much at all. They're always a team that's competitive, has those years where they upset people. That obviously Conway Christian had their hands full with them 2 years ago in the playoffs. Was it who did they upset the year before that?
Mineral
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 Springs.
Springs.
Yeah.
Springs. That's
But
right. That
but
was a huge
yeah.
one. Big kick at the end. One of the greatest high school games you'll ever watch. Um, so yeah, I mean the 2A1. It's got a lot of competitive, a lot of tradition in that conference.
Yeah, I don't know. When you were talking about that Conway Christian Hector game, you're talking about the one that came down to that Hail Mary at the end that didn't go down. Yeah, that was conference. I think you said
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
playoffs.
I think
conference. Sorry, right towards the
Carlisle and
last game of
Hector
the season, I think is what
Yeah.
it was.
a few years back, Carlisle and Hector battled it out, and Hector really gave them trouble. They went to Mineral Springs
Hmm.
a couple years ago and pulled the upset on that one. Actually, it was the same year because they went to Mineral Springs and then went to Carlisle,
Right.
and
Hmm.
they gave Carlisle every bit of it. They want all they wanted. So I will say this for Hector. Right now I'm hearing their numbers are down to like
Rough.
16 players right now.
Mm.
So that's tough. I think when you look at this conference, your top three, Mount Ida, Bigelow, and Conway Christian, are kind of head and shoulders above the rest of them this year. And then you're going to have a battle for that fourth playoff spot there with Hector, Johnson County, Westside, Magazine, and Mountainburg.
Mm.
Yeah. And Conway Christian's roster is constructed of seniors and sophomores. There are no juniors on the team at all. So they're going to have a lot of experience in those seniors, and then a lot of new for those sophomores that are going to have to come in and adjust to a team that just won a state title and has high expectations again this year. So, but yeah, Mount Ida seems to be the runaway favorite in this conference. They're going to have Kane McCullough back, who comes back from an injury that he suffered his sophomore year that I believe kept him out all of last season. And he can play quarterback or running back or wing back wherever they want to put him.
Mm.
Coach White said he's extremely versatile. Hector is going to have Drew Newport back, but I mean, the problem last year was he didn't have the offensive line that he needed to have the time to get the ball out. He had some playmakers at receiver.
Mm.
He had a decent run game. Landon Darter, I believe, was their running back last year. He was a decent running back, really more of a fullback type, and they used him that way. But they just have a lot of turnover at Hector right now. I know
Right.
they got low numbers, which every 2A team has to deal with at some point. Mount Ida and Conway Christian in this conference were dealing with it a few years ago as well, and Hazen dealt with it when they won that state title with Luke King. Um, and so it just every 2A team has those stretches where they barely put an 11-man football team together, really.
Yeah.
So uh, it's just part of being a small school, playing small school football. And then Bigelow is going to be physical. They're always physical every year. Coach Starks
Oh yeah.
has them prepared and ready. I think he's one of the best coaches, not just in 2A, but in the state, especially defensively. They're always well prepared, um,
Hard nose.
hard nosed, and they're going to run the ball. That's what they want to do. They're like an SEC football school because they have a great defense and they run the ball well. I mean, that's what they want to do. It's like a lot of 2A schools are that way. Mount Ida has struggled on defense, but they do run the ball well. Des Arc, same way. They like to run the ball. Carlisle, the same way. I mean, it's just how
Yeah.
2A football is. So, and then whenever you have a team like Poen that can pass, it's a little bit of a curveball, but we'll get to them in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, yes. So, anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's talk about who we feel like are going to win the conference. We think, I would say, agreement across the table here. Mount Ida is the team
Yes.
to beat in the conference. We've got Bigelow in the top five, and we got Conway Christian at 10. So we feel like that, obviously that Bigelow Mount Ida game is going to be a game that I think everybody looks at in this conference to say, that one's for the conference championship. Conway Christian, you never can count out a state championship team for sure. They've got a good program going on over there. It's not like Conway Christian wins one year. I know that they have their very lean years, but they also have some up years too. So, that being said, we feel like right now Mount Ida is the team to beat. We'll take Bigelow second, Conway Christian third, and then in that fourth spot, I think I'm going to go with Mountainburg. I think Mountainburg might be the better team of all of those teams that are left. Hector traditionally is the team that
Mhm.
probably would fill that spot otherwise, but Mountainburg seems to have the better team this year.
I agree.
Yep, yep. They got a quarterback at Mountainburg named Ryan Allen, who I believe rushed for close to 2,000 yards last year.
Yes,
He's a
Excuse me.
talented player, just a big physical runner. Probably be a fullback if he went to Murfreesboro or Des Arc or somewhere like that, because he's just a big physical runner. But they play him at quarterback at Mountainburg and like to run option plays with him just because he's physical runner, quicker guy for his size, and um,
Their defense will
yeah,
be a big key component for them,
yeah,
to get
and
that
they've
fourth spot.
yep, and they've got a if they beat Hector, I think they've got it locked down. I think maybe Mountain Pine could be a shaker in that conference a little bit, but because you just don't know what they have after moving back from 8 man a couple years ago, they were down last year, but moving back to 11 man football your first year can be an adjustment. So
Right.
we'll just see how that shakes out this year in that conference.
all right. Well, we're going to go to our 2A2 preview here, and let's talk. This is what we feel like is the deepest of the conferences among the 2A. Every year it feels like there's one team at least that gets left out of the playoff picture.
Hmm.
The first, you look at Cross County, Des Arc, Earl is always a team that has athletes. East Poinsett County right now is our number one team in 2A. Mark Tree has been up there now for several years. McCrory has won a state championship
Right.
recently, and then you've got Lee and Izard County
I mean,
really had good success in the 8 man.
you don't want to play any of those teams. I mean, we did an 8-man game, Izard County versus Rector a
Yeah,
few years ago, 2 years ago now, and I mean, they get off the bus. You're like, this is an 8-man
right,
team. That's you. There's been a couple 3A schools drop down to 2A, but I mean, drop down to 8-man. But Izard County is a true 2A or 8-man.
right.
Most years, and just to see the type of athletes they had is it's phenomenal. And so I mean, there's not a team in that conference you want to face that can't knock you off one week. You got to be ready every week, and it's like you said, it's definitely the deepest by far. We do love EPC at the top, East Poinsett County. They've just got a lot of talented guys coming back, and then of course Cross County's right there. We've talked about them already. We do think Mark Tree is going to drop off a little bit this year. TJ Hodges is gone now,
Uh,
and that hurts them. And the quarterback they've had for several
Yep,
years,
Kenyon
3 year
Carter.
starter
Yep.
Carter, he's gone. He's moved on. So they're definitely going to be rebuilding this year. So McCrory right there, they upset somebody every year. It seems like they'll either beat a Cross County or they'll beat a Des Arc or someone like that. And even and they won it like you said. I think it's been 3 or 4 years now since they won state, and I mean, it's just a tough, rugged conference to deal with every
well,
year.
let me throw this in for Desark. Desark has won that conference, at least shared it,
Hmm.
4 out of the last 5 years. The only reason I know that is because we're doing the top 25 programs now. Um, I could not go in and give credit for that because it's just too hard to chase. Who tied with this one, who tied with this. So I had to go with the one, like basically who got the one seed out of that conference to give them the actual credit for the conference championship. But that being said, Desark is a team that is always up there at the top, and a lot of it has to do with just their physicality of play. I really felt like Desark last year they dropped that game to, I believe it was Cross County that they dropped it to. They beat Mark Tree. Maybe it was EPC. Let me look. Let me look. I need to quit guessing and just look here as I've got it in front of me here. But they dropped, I believe it was Cross County that they dropped the game to. And it was kind of a shocker. It was like kind of out of nowhere. And that cost them the conference championship win. And when you switch them in EPC, when it comes down to it, no,
Right.
they did lose to EPC. But if they win that game, and that was a home game for Desarg, if they win that game, that you switch them in EPC in the playoff bracket, do they go to the finals? Desarg's been to the finals now quite a
Yeah.
bit, not been able to get over the hump. But it is games like that that get Des Arc almost yearly. I think there was a cross county game maybe last year that or 2 years ago that got them.
I think McCrory clipped them one year too. It
Yeah,
seems like that's the thing about this
right,
conference, though, is you've got three legit state title championship contenders, and you've got another two that could come out of nowhere and get hot at the right time, and they could also win a state championship. That's how
right.
deep this conference is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, McCrory, if they were in the 2A1, would be the fourth playoff team. You just look at a team like that that has a lot of history, and has recent success too. They just have to compete every year with now in the past few years, maybe they would have been in that four spot
They might even be in the three spot.
in or the three spot. They could be, but you that conference, that 2A1 has been a little bit top heavy in
Right.
recent years, and then the 2A2 has been deeper, but then they got bounced by a team from the 2A1. Like Mark Tree got bounced by Bigelow in 2023, and then last year in the championship, EPC got beat by Conway Christian, and Desert got bounced in the playoffs. So you look at that conference, they just haven't been able to get over the hump. EPC lost to Bigelow in 23 in the state championship as well. So
Hmm.
they've had run-ins with the 2A1, the top teams in the 2A1, and haven't been able to get over
Oh
the
yeah.
hump. And EPC's been there twice now, and they could be there a
A third,
third
right,
time.
right.
Yeah.
And so maybe they lose to Mount Ida this year, and then it'll be a third time that they've lost to a team from the 2A1.
Yeah, and it seems
So
like Carlisle as well. They meet up with them, Mark Tree or East Poinsett County. It seems like I've seen them every year playing Carlisle in the playoffs. Just about. I know we've called a lot of those games. Um, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Carson.
yep. And then you get down into that conference. Cross County is going to be a team that I think will be a little bit more of a favorite this year than they have been in the past.
Right.
Des Arc's still going to be up there. I think it was is not out of the realm of possibility at all that they win that conference.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have McCrory, who I think could be a surprise team this year, and then Mark Tree. They're going to have athletes. They always have athletes every year. The problem is they haven't been stable on the offensive line, but they have skill guys usually that are still really good. I know their quarterback is somebody that some Mark Tree people like Allen. I know Allen has some high hopes for him a little bit. He was on his Kevin Payne Award watch list.
Hmm.
So, um,
Well, Mark Tree's always going to have athletes.
yep,
I mean, you want to talk about a team that looked good coming off the bus. My goodness,
Right.
they really look good coming off the bus. Let's talk. I'm looking up schedules here, by the way, just because, and I'm trying to take these top three with EPC and Cross County and Des Arc and see, well, where do each of them play? Des Arc plays at Cross County and at EPC back to back weeks. That is a gauntlet right there for them. So you would think that might put them at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to it. EPC, let me look at their schedule real quick here. They play Cross County at home, obviously Des Arc. I'm sorry, at Cross County, and then they play Des Arc at home, and then that means that Cross County plays Des Arc at home and at EPC. So that always plays a factor when it comes down to that. EPC seems to have the schedule advantage when it comes to that those three teams there. So that's a big one. So let's just go ahead and let's make our picks right now. Feel like that EPC right now, I mean, they're number one in our poll. So I would say you'd have to go with them. Doesn't mean that they'll win it, but right now that's where we're thinking. Cross County coming in at number two, very talented team. Coach Pascal there does a good job.
Well,
I think Des Arc is right there. They're pushing that three spot, 2-3 spot, and could easily step up and win that conference. And then your four spot, man, that's tough. That's where it comes in. You think, okay, who comes in and fills that four spot right now? And I really don't know.
yeah, I
I
don't
don't
either.
know.
McCrory, I'm leaning towards, but I mean, we're talking about athletes. I mentioned Izzard County, which you might not traditionally think of them that way, but like Lee, I mean,
Right.
getting off the bus, I mean, and they're going to have speed everywhere. I mean, they got a lot of ground to make up. They've struggled a little bit, but they've got the talent. Um, that four spot's pretty wide open. I mean, I do lean towards McCrory if you're going to ask me.
But man, Earl, Izzard County. I mean,
Yeah, Earl's right there for sure
yeah,
as well.
you could throw all of those guys in there.
yep, yep. Earl is a team with a lot of tradition as well. Gary Bohannon was there a couple of years
Yeah,
ago,
that's true.
and so they've got a lot of really good athletes. Joseph McVay, who went there, is now at Vanderbilt, I believe, unless he's transferred, and that's a complete possibility. But McVay was a very talented player. I believe was it you that said you called a game of theirs and he just lit up the scoreboard and McVay
I was. It
No,
was
it wasn't
it
me.
me.
was
It was
Brad.
just him on that one.
So that was
Like a double night.
the
I was in a
second
different place.
the second round of the playoffs a couple years back
Was that
when
when they were playing Carlisle?
they were playing Carlisle,
Right.
and the Sullivan kid just went
Yep.
off.
Hmm.
300 and almost 400 yards. I think
Oh
I had
yeah.
him for 389
It
yards that
was
night.
that was.
Um,
I think that night we were at. You were at Carlisle and I was at Hazen. We were
yes,
real close to each
yeah.
other, and we were doing. I think
And
it
we
was
ate at Nick's
EPC.
Barbecue.
That's right.
Nick's Barbecue and Catfish. Just saying.
I think it was EPC they
Yeah,
had that night. It was either them. It
I
might have
think
been
that's
Mark Tree,
yeah.
but I think it was EPC.
I think we did a double. Like
Yeah,
we
we
did a
did.
double back to back weeks there.
Yeah,
But
that's why it runs together.
anyway, right? It,
I do want to say this one
yeah.
more time before we move off of 2A2. Just one more thing I want to add about Desart that I'm really impressed with that program is just every year they're just very good on defense and they're just hard nosed and we've been able to go up to Desart and see a lot of things. We went one day a whole day. We were able to go to their pep rally a few years ago. Talk to the coaches. We're in the locker room, and it's just a lot of tradition and a lot of great culture
Yeah.
there, and that's why you can never count them out to upset. Even though we've got EPC and Cross County at 1 and 2, I mean Desert's right there beside them. Desert doesn't traditionally have as much speed.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of his name. The guy they had the last few years, their running back. He's moved on
Yeah,
now.
Davion Bell.
Davion
Yes.
Bell. That's going to hurt them a little bit, but I know they got a lot of the fullback, H back kind of guys coming back. And um, Collins and the starter
Barry
Barry. Yeah, those two guys they're going to bring it down your throat. So I mean,
and Goodman, the
um,
quarterback.
Yes.
yeah,
And he's a
Goodman's
load.
really good. I like yes,
He's a load.
he's a 4th and 1 guy you want. He's that Tebow
Well,
type build.
he's your fullback taking
Right,
snaps.
100%,
For sure.
100%. They're going to be a 3 yards cloud of dust and play good defense. So I mean, they can upset either one of those two teams.
Well,
They
let me
really
add a
can.
couple things. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
I'm done.
Um, add a couple things because of our schedules this year. We're probably going to be able to go spend some more time at places where we go do these games at. Um,
Right.
even maybe even have a restaurant or two that we can give an award to. We'll throw that out there later.
Good.
But yeah, I think we're going to be able to maybe go talk to some kids a
The
little bit
red
more.
spoon.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. Anyway, let's go to 2A3 real quick. And this one, I think we feel like is a little bit more top heavy when you've got Murfreesboro, who has, out of the last 2 years, there has been really, really good. And then you've got Junction City. I think those two are your top two. And then you kind of have a scrum for 3 4. I think Lafayette County probably is your team that may have the leg up when it comes to that. And then you've got Mineral Springs and Dirks. Dirks is another team there that probably can fight for that 3 spot. A lot of people think that Dirks is going to be a little bit better. But anyway, let's give our thoughts on the 2A3.
Yeah, you look at Murfreesboro, who and Junction City, who we have right next to each other in the rankings. Junction City at 7 and Murfreesboro at 8. I personally think that Murfreesboro could be a dark horse team this year. I think Coach Turley is not going to have is not they're not going to take a step back with him as their head coach. They might be a little bit better offensively because I think Turley is a little bit more of an offensive coach, if I'm not mistaken, than Cheshire was. Puts more emphasis on it because Cheshire was, he knew what they needed to do to win ball games there, and at the time it was run the I form, whatever they officially called that offense there. I can't remember, but it was an I form based offense, power I think is what they called it.
Yeah.
And so that's that was what they needed to do to win ball games at the time. And they weren't winning a lot of ball games before Cheshire got there, and so
Right.
and then to win conference, uh, or maybe just come up short of winning conference back-to-back years, was a great step up for them. They did win conference the year that they beat Mineral Springs, and then
Right.
last year I think they came just short of winning conference. I think Junction ended up winning it last year because they lost to Mineral Springs at the end of the season. But regardless, Mineral Springs having Coach Jared Jackson come down there, who's from the Tommy Tice tree, is going to bring a new sort of style to that school with Coach Hathcock leaving for DeWitt, and then they're going to always have athletes there at Mineral Springs. Same thing with Junction City. I love what Coach Ball does with Junction City defensively. That's his forte. It's where he's putting emphasis on it as a head coach, and they're going to have athletes. They're going to want to run the ball. I know they have a quarterback there. I believe it's DeCory. They have two Larrys there, DeCory and Jacory,
Yeah.
and
No, the brother.
yeah. So it's one of those two brothers is their quarterback, and I can't remember which one it is, to be honest with you.
I
So,
was just making a joke about Larry, double Larrys, and
oh,
it's
well,
it's. I'm old, man. He's never seen Bob Newhart or
I know who
Uh,
Bob
that,
my brother
Newhart
Daryl.
is.
My
I was
brother
about to
Daryl.
say that's been a long time ago.
My dad watched Bob Newhart. I know
Yeah.
who he is, but I don't know the jokes.
I got that one myself, but I'm well. You can see my hairline is it goes back to the back of
Yeah,
my neck, so uh, that's why I got that one. But anyway, with that being said, one name that I didn't mention there, and some of this is because Scorebook Live doesn't have them on there. I'm not sure why. Gurdon is a team that is
yeah.
up
Yep.
there as
They
well.
don't have Junction City on there either.
Yeah, Coach Jackson does a great job over there at Gurdon, and Gurdon's a team that kind of pops up there every once in a while, and they're really a contender. I know that they've struggled over the last few years, but you got to wonder if they can surprise some people. I know that when we talked to them over at Hot Springs, they felt like they could surprise some people.
I haven't. We didn't. I didn't personally interview Dirks this year. I don't know if any of us actually talked to them this year, but they're another team that traditionally, I mean, they make some noise here and there.
Yes.
I don't. I'm a little bit off on them this season. I don't have a whole lot of info on them, but they're another team that just has some tradition that did some things last year here and there. Um, yeah, I agree though. Murfreesboro. I mean, it's going to be fun to see how that plays out because you lose when you have a guy come in, and I grew up in a school where I had a situation like that where you had a coach come in, you have a lot of success for a few years, and then he leaves, and you still got people there in place. Turley, of course, was a coach before, and he just kind of coming back into it. Um, they've got a lot of talent still left there. I mean, they did graduate a lot of good guys, a lot of good talent, but I mean, they still. It's going to be fun to see how that culture looks. It's from everything we're hearing from the outside. It sounds like it's really they kind of took the reins and
Yeah.
ran with it, so to speak. So that'll be fun to see how that plays out. Mineral Springs, I definitely think we saw them kind of take a step back last year from what they had been, and I think they're still kind of in that spot right now. So, um, you know, I I'm gonna have to go with Murfreesboro as number one for me. Well, Junction City, another one I keep forgetting to talk about there. They're gonna be right there with them, like you said, with Coach Ball. He's a defensive minded guy. They've got athletes, even though they lost their main running back. They're still gonna have a lot of talent. So that's really a toss up right there between those two. It's really hard to pick because I know Murfreesboro's got some things coming back and they got a good tradition at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
We're looking at that Junction City Murfreesboro game as a possibility to do as for this year as
Hmm.
well. We've got some possibilities out there that we're looking at. We've got our first four games set. We'll talk about that maybe later, but um, after the first four, we're still looking for ball games. So we'll definitely um, be putting that out there at some point. So let's go ahead. Let's look at our playoff teams that we feel like obviously Junction City, Murfreesboro, as you said, I mean, if you look at our rankings, one is seven, one is eight.
Hmm.
It's a toss up there. Lafayette County's got to be in that mix, and Dirks, I think, are your four in that conference. Maybe Gurdon kind of maybe trying to, you know, get in there maybe. But right now we'll go. I'm going to go with Murfreesboro, and I'll take them as the champion, even though they are number eight. I'll take Junction City as the second place team, and it'll come down to that ball game, in my opinion.
Right.
And then I think that you've got
Mineral
Lafayette County, Mineral
Springs.
Springs. Are right there, but I'm going to take Dirks in the three spot, and then Lafayette County and Mineral Springs to battle it out for the four spot.
I don't want to leave anybody out. There's also Foreman in there in Spring Hill. Spring Hill, of course, played for eight-man state a couple years
Yeah.
ago. Um, I believe head coach Smith is still there, Greg
Yes.
Smith. So be interested to see what they bring to the table this year. And then Foreman's a program that was really high at one point, won state
Yeah.
championship, and they're on some rough water right now. So let's see if they can maybe turn it around a little bit this year and get some momentum going. But I agree with you, Murfreesboro, Johnson City. I mean, it's hard. it's hard for me to pick Murfreesboro over Junction City, just because I know the talent they have. We interviewed them down at our Camden site on our Hometown Sports Volume 2, and we talked to their offensive coordinator, wasn't it?
Hmm.
He was energetic guy, a lot of fun to talk to, and I mean they got a lot of high belief in themselves, even with their running back leaving. I mean, it's going to be fun. I think, like, you're right. Whoever wins that game is probably winning conference.
Yeah, and then early in the season in non-conference, Mount Ida and Junction City will play each other at Ouachita Baptist, and that's going to be a telltale sign of who will be the true contender this year, two of the true contenders this year
Right.
in the class. And and but I think Lafayette County is going to have a better year than they've had. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think that, but I do think that Junction and Murfreesboro are the two kind of that have separated themselves from the pack in that conference,
Yeah, I agree.
and it's just going to be it's going to be of a um a little bit of a toss up of who can win. Now, if Junction City comes out and they've just got the athletes that they do and they've figured it out and they have put it together and they're strong offensively, it took them a while last year to find their identity offensively, and then they decided to, base their offense out of Dominic Grimes running the Wildcat, and they don't have him there anymore, so they have to find their identity offensively again. And
Mhm.
so, if they can figure that out, then they'll have it. They'll have it down. I think that Mount Ida will beat them early in the season because they have their offensive identity figured out. They've got
Oh yeah.
starters back on both sides of the ball. But it's going to be interesting to see that game for sure. And then moving into the conference schedule, I think that my pick would be Murfreesboro this year because of what Coach Turley is going to bring and the instability that Junction might have on offense after losing Grimes and Pinister.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the 2A4 real quick. Poe and Hazen, Hampton, England, Carlisle, Bearden, and Baptist Prep. Carlisle and Hazen have been at the top of that thing for quite a while now. Right now, Hazen is not in our top 10. I know that they're kind of a fringe top 10
Mhm.
team for sure. I think that they're definitely going to be a factor in this. One of the things about Hazen that I find, and I'm just throwing this out there, Coach Basankin does a great
Mhm.
job there. I mean,
It really
you just
does.
talk about just a good, hard nosed coach. That guy can do it. And so Coach Basankin there at Hazen does a great job. I think that he's going to keep them in the mix. A lot of people feel good about Poen this year. Poen's been a team
Yeah.
that has not necessarily been at the top, but been in the mix. And this year, a lot of people are feeling a little better with them. The big 6'6" quarterback, Colt Barrett.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is definitely one I've been waiting on to talk about. Um, I like Poen a lot. I think we have them ninth overall. Is
Hmm.
that correct? I think that may be a little. I mean, it's hard to say because there's so many unknowns out there, but I could see them easily getting that top five before it's over. You mentioned the quarterback. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of experience, but their offensive line. Carter Felty is a 6'2", 250-pound starter, coming back, plays guard. Left tackle Michael Moranto is another one. I believe he's a senior as well, 6'1", 230. Both of those guys started all last year. And then they got a guard they moved to center that's like 335 pounds, and Hunter Bailey. He's another guy. So that's one of the things when I'm looking at rankings and looking at how I feel like teams are going to do. I like to start in the trenches. And if you've got, a lot of people have like a quarterback back, but they might have lost everything else. When you've got the line and your quarterback back, which is, those are your most important spots, really. To me, it all starts in the trenches, and then if you got the leader at quarterback, I mean, that's huge. So I really like Poen. I think they are definitely um, up there. That they can make some noise in the state playoffs as well. Carlisle, of course, Carlisle. We've already talked about a little bit early on. Jaden Elliott, they got the line. I think is going to be better this year than it was last year. They lost their quarterback Tanksley, but they're going to run the ball more. They're going to play good defense. Coach was it Wilson? He's just he's got it going over there. I mean, they've always got guys coming in and out, and just great tradition. And you can't count Carlisle out as being a contender for state every year.
Right.
So I like Carlisle overall. I think Poen is right there on their heels, and then Bearden, another team I want to talk about a lot. I really like Bearden. Um, that program, tradition rich, but had fallen on hard times. Head coach Brandon Austin has done a fabulous job there. He's a guy that I feel like is not talked about enough in the state of Arkansas. Brandon Austin has done a phenomenal job. He's not a guy that is out there calling places and trying to get pub. He don't care about that kind of stuff. From what it seems like to me, he's a quiet leader. I mean, he talks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's the kids will tell you he's a great coach. They love him, and when you interview him, he's a great interview. But he's not a guy that just out there like, hey, look at us. You know, everybody's forgetting about us. He's just going to let the
Right.
show on the field. They went from just awful for a few years now. Since what's his name? Head coach over at Washita Christian. After he left, you know what I'm talking about, horse camp.
Okay. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
once he left, they've really fallen on hard times. But last year they go 6-4. They tied for second in the conference. I mean, it was like a 2 or 3 way tie. But they've got a bunch back. They got a really good running back. You remember his name? I'm talking.
Chambers, Matthew
Yeah,
Chambers.
Chambers, and they got a lot of other guys around them. I think they're a team that they could sneak up on a Carlisle or a Poe and challenge for that 2 or 1 spot really in the conference. But I definitely like Bearden at the 3 this year.
Yeah, Bowen is I wouldn't say they're my favorite over Carlisle, but Barrett is going to be an X factor for them. If he is able to get the ball out, get time from his offensive line, get the ball out to his receivers, and make plays with his arm, and he has the strongest arm in 2A, bar none. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Josh Allen because he can move in the pocket. He's got a strong arm. He's tall, 6'6". Not a terrible runner, but not, he's not Lamar Jackson. So he's going to be,
Is he more of a steamboat
I
than
mean, he
than a
can be, he
big
can be.
juker?
Yeah. At 6'6", most of the time you are. So, uh,
Some people say he's 6'8". So
yeah.
I mean, he's a big
I mean,
kid.
he's
He's a
tall.
big
His
kid,
dad's tall too. Coach Barrett is a tall guy
right?
too.
The only
So,
quarterback that I ever remember to be
Ledbetter.
that tall, no, was Dan McGuire. You remember that name?
You're saying 6'8"?
6'8". Mark McGuire's brother
Okay,
played for the Seattle Seahawks. He was their starting quarterback for a while. His name was Dan McGuire. 6'8" was his listing.
right.
Ryan Mallett would
Ryan
be the
Mallett
other one,
6'7".
6'7",
Um,
and I don't remember anybody being that tall outside of that. That's a
well,
tall.
Trevor
Ryan
Lawrence
Leaf.
is 6'6".
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's a few 6'5", 6'6". Matt Jones, of course, 6'6". But Ryan Leaf was up there. I can't remember them all now off the top of my
Right.
head, but you kind of put me on the spot. There were some few good ones, but
Yeah.
honestly, if you look at I don't know why we're getting off on this, but if you look at NFL statistics, the guys that are over 6'7" and higher, it's a very small window of success.
Right.
There are some that have lit it up, but anyway, 6'6", 6'8", whatever he is in 2A football, he's going to be dominant. And like you said, one of the strongest arms, probably the strongest arm in 2A. But he's got a lot of weapons around him, and I love the fact that their offensive line is so stacked coming back. I mean, they still got a couple pieces to figure out, but for the most part, they've got you know the guys
hmm
back and a lot of
yep.
experience there, and that's going to bode well for them.
And
So,
then Hazen,
Yeah.
before we split, Hazen's got a really talented quarterback
Yeah.
too. And
Yes.
JJ
Pinkney.
Pinkney is electric at quarterback, and he
true.
is more of a Lamar Jackson type, where they'll run a lot of design runs for him, and
Hmm.
they'll get him out in
Oh,
space,
and
and
he's an
he's
athlete
an
and a half,
athlete.
man.
I
He's
can
just
remember him as a sophomore.
he's just
Playing.
electric. I mean, there's no other way to describe him. And those are Carlisle. We hit on them a little bit. They're gonna have they hit the weight room hard in the off season. They pride themselves on that.
Hmm.
But I think that yeah, Bowen, Hayes, and Carlisle, they're going to be the three teams. Bearden, I think, will be
Yeah.
the fourth team probably. That'll make the playoffs, and so it's just going to be a competitive conference this year.
Now, I did say Garden has fallen on hard times. They made the playoffs last year, so that was my fault on
Right.
that. So let's talk a little bit about. You said you like Poen.
Hmm.
Is Poen your champion this year in conference?
Uh,
I would have to give it to Carlisle just because to beat the bet or to be the best, you have to
bro,
beat the
you got
best,
to earn it
Right.
and
first.
Carlisle has been there the past few years. I think Dirks is in the 2A3. I don't think we hit on them that much, but um, I think that um,
We're talking 2A4 now,
yeah,
huh?
2A4. So I just wanted to,
Who else we got in
yeah,
there?
we've got,
You got Bearden. I think is definitely right there in that top 3.
yep,
England's a team we haven't talked about yet. Hazen, of course, you probably got to put Hazen in the 4th spot.
yep,
But
Oh, I think Hazen is always going to be a team that they may not
3
win the
or 4.
conference. They may not
hmm
win the conference, but they're going to decide who does.
yeah,
And just looking at Poen's schedule, they got to go to Carlisle on October the 17th.
That's gonna be fun.
Maybe a game we go to. Who
Yeah,
knows?
that's definitely
Who
one
knows?
to talk
well,
about.
yep, Carlisle, and then I think that the Carlisle's going to have a good another good year. I mean, it's hard to not argue with that. But then you got uh,
If
Bearden is one that I think that, like you said, people don't talk about. And then you've got Hazen
Clarendon,
and Clarendon and
Clarendon's in
England.
that too,
Yep.
and this is another thing with SB Live here. For whatever
right,
reason, they're not listed on this
Yeah.
list here. But Clarendon is a team that I know they feel good about what they've got. They
right,
feel really good about what they got coming up in junior high. I have been told that they've got two of the very best athletes in the state on their junior high football team. So
are they gonna be ninth graders?
I think so. So
Then
they may
might
right, and
get in
and
the mix.
that always makes a difference too. They may not move up early, but maybe late they do. So anyway, I'm going with Carlisle. I'll go with Poen just behind them, Hazen behind them, and Bearden behind them. And then as of the last 2 years, if the playoff bracket is formatted the same way that it's formatted the last 2 years, the 1 and the 4 meet and the 2 and the 3 meet in their lineups here. So you could have a matchup, just for instance, you could have if let's just say that they pick the way that we go would be like a Mount Ida in round 1 versus the 4 spot in the a Bearden. You could have a matchup like that.
Who that
So
that was the matchup last year in the first round of the playoffs was
yeah,
Mount Ida and Bearden.
so
Right. So
so
go ahead.
well that's how it works out. So it's hard to go by this, but I'm going to go ahead. Let's pick our two state championship contenders if the bracket worked out the way we think it could. Obviously, I think we feel like EPC maybe makes their third straight appearance, and Mount Ida they make it a appearance. I don't know how many times they've made it, but it's been several over the last 10 years or
Hmm.
so. Anybody got any other things?
Um, I mean, so who? Let me say your top 10 again, because I'm trying to feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Well, I'll say that my pick to win state is Mount Ida, and I don't think that I think that you could make a case for EPC or Mount Ida. I think that um, Mount Ida's got 5 returning starters on the offensive line. They've got Jackson White coming in, who's probably going to fill that Ben Woodfield role of being their workhorse running back or quarterback. Coach White said that he could play either place, and I think
Cross
he did.
County
I
was
think
the
he
other
did
one
last year in the
that I was thinking
playoffs.
of.
But I would say that EPC and Mount Ida are kind of up there as the two that separated themselves from the pack. I would say my dark horse to make it to the state this year would be Murfreesboro because of what Coach Turley has walked into there. And I think that Coach Cheshire set up a good foundation for him. So that would be my dark horse team. Maybe Hazen if Pinkney can really turn it on, and he's got that ability to just be a game breaker. So um,
Does Carlisle get over the
yeah,
hump again?
Carlisle could do it.
At some point here,
Hard to call them a dark horse, but
right?
Poland's would be my dark horse. To win it, but if off the top of my head, I'm going EPC, Cross County, Mount Ida, right
Yeah,
there. Those three, any three of them could do it. And then you got to mention Desark, you got to mention Carlisle, you got to mention, um, I mean Hazen, like you said already, and then Murfreesboro as well. So Junction City, and that's another one. If they get it figured out
yeah.
offensively, then they're going to be right
They're
there in the mix.
gonna have the athletes for sure. I'm gonna go with Mount Ida as my pick as well. I like number one. I felt like that they were a year ahead of schedule, making the semifinals last year.
100%.
And feel like they've got the team to come back that could do it. I also like Coach White's program, what he does there. He's just got the continuity that you like there. So I like Mount Ida to get there again, and we feel like that they can win it. And then EPC is right there as well. But man, I
Cross
mean
County,
it's yeah, Cross County's there. I mean you could throw
bro.
and again brackets matter. What happens, injuries are going to be to
Yep.
happen. There are things that will happen throughout the season that will change things.
That's
So,
another thing is when I'm picking the 2A4, who am I putting in that three spot if it's Bearden or Hazen? Bearden is, I don't know what Hazen is exactly total numbers this year, but I know Bearden is very thin. They've got
yeah.
some good spots and they've got a good team coming back, off a team that was improved last year. But if they get any banged up at all, that's going to really hurt them. And I feel like Hazen would slide in there pretty easily if that happens.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our 2A class preview. Again, we want to say thank you for joining us. We also Gave you our rankings, our initial rankings here to start the season. And we're looking forward to starting the season on August the 29th. We will be at, I guess we could go ahead and throw it out there, Fordyce and Monticello. We'll be at Fordyce or be at Monticello for that ball game between Fordyce and Monticello. Cadillac, the
Yep.
Cadillac man, and you've got uh, Joseph Achelis.
Hmm.
I can't say his name correctly. Rushed for 1,400 yards last year. He's going to be a good one this year,
Yeah.
and so we're looking forward to being at that ball game as well. So
Red Bugs and Billies.
Red Bugs and Billies, they go back a long way. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this one up. We want to encourage you, number one, to subscribe and make sure that you like our Facebook page as well, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. And man, we're going to have a great time this season once again. So for these two, for Carson here on my right, for Duran on my left, we say so long, and join us for our other class previews that we'll have coming up.